Ladies and sinners, welcome to another Tuesday evening edition of the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. We're back at it again. We needed a week layover, guys. I had to do some stuff for our youth football league here in Lincoln, Nebraska. It's just kind of the way it is. But with that said, we're going to get back into our Vegas sports coverage because that's what we do around here. We're all about our Vegas sports. We're going to kick it off with UNLV. We're going to talk about the Lady Hoops. The Hoopers, they're killing it. 20-2. They're absolutely killing it. UNLV men's basketball is kind of falling off a bit. We'll touch base on that. We're going to go right into UNLV football because their recruiting efforts are starting to ramp up, especially from the transfer aspect. But with all of that in mind, you already know we have to talk about our Las Vegas Golden Knights, and we have to talk about our Las Vegas Raiders. What's going on with the Derek Carr situation? How are things going to be handled? What are the team needs? And we're going to cover the mock draft that I put on my Twitter not too long ago. Folks, loaded show. We will be here the full hour. And as always, you guys can catch us on Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Cale Henderson. Yes, get on us on our forums. Twitter, at SinCity_IESR, at Cale_Henderson, where we can talk to you guys about all things that are Vegas sports. When we get back, we're going to go right into the coverage with UNLV, baby. And we're back here on the IE Vegas, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Again, my name is Cale Henderson. I'm your host here in Sin City, the Lost Wages, capital of the world. That's what we do. That's what we do when we go to Las Vegas, right? We bet some money, we win some, we lose a lot, and we have a great time paying absorbent prices, if we're being honest. But hey, it is what it is. I will be in Vegas, hopefully, this upcoming couple of weeks because there will be a Nike Coach of the Year convention there in Las Vegas at a local hotel there. I'm not going to say it because obviously it is what it is, but I will be in town. So if you folks want to meet up, hit me up on Twitter. Let's get after it, man. If you want to have some food, something like that, talk Vegas sports, let's do it. For anybody listening out there. But I'm looking to be in Vegas in the next 2 weeks at the Nike Coach of the Year convention. Not that I'm trying to advertise. I'm just really excited because I'm a football guy. Lincoln Riley's going to be there. Coach of the Year, Sonny Dykes, right? There's going to be a number of folks. I believe Steve Sarkisian will be there, Arkansas head coach. And one I'm really kind of interested in picking his brain if we get an opportunity to is PJ Fleck out of Minnesota. PJ Fleck is an underrated coach. He is doing wonders in Minnesota. They seem to win 9-10 games a year at a hockey school, and it would be interesting to figure out how does he build his program, how does he keep them rah-rah, and what does he do differently than other coaches in the Big Ten that allow them to stay consistent. They're a very big, powerful team. So a lot of coaches there looking to go with our athletic director of our youth football team, and the league is so graciously, kind of hooking us up with this opportunity for training. So excited. Hoping those tickets are approved and the funding's approved by the league, and we'll get after it here. We'll get after it here in the next couple weeks. So excited. A lot of things in development for youth football here in Lincoln, Nebraska. We're kicking butt, taking names, and we're part of our community. Jumping right in, man. UNLV sports. And before we do that, we got to talk about our platform, right? We got to get into our platform. The platform that allows us to talk sports on a weekly basis. For the last 8 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. All the while, we continue to be by the fans, for the fans, and with your help, we are ready to take the next step. When you go to our website, iesportsradio.com, you'll see our Patreon link with 5 different tiers. The first one starting at just $5 a month. This donation gets you shout-outs on all 32 of our shows. Higher tiers include IE Sports Radio merchandise, access to our podcasting university, and even a chance to be featured on a segment of our flagship show, The Defining Moment. Thank you all very much for continuing to make IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports. UNLV Hoops, it is underway, folks. Let's go ahead and start with the men because, they're not doing too bad. They're 7th in the Mountain West. They could be doing better. Schedule, honestly, was very favorable at the beginning of the season, and since then they've been hitting some what are some Mountain West, really good Mountain West basketball teams, such the likes, San Jose State, San Diego State. They're not too bad when it comes to basketball. New Mexico is a ranked team. Otherwise, when you look at this schedule, it's pretty. I mean, it's pretty winnable. They're just having issues scoring points. They are up 41-30 against Colorado State, which would be a good win. They need to start beefing up them conference wins, them conference numbers to put themselves in contention to possibly, put themselves in a Mountain West tournament. That way, they have an opportunity to play for the tournament, for the big tournament. But I don't see it this year, man. This team would need to drastically change some things, and this UNLV Hoops team would have to drastically win out. They'd have to win out. I think the margin of error is basically slim to none at this point for a team like this in the Mountain West. They'd have to win out to get this done. So UNLV men's basketball right now have a 44-30 lead over the Colorado State Rams, but it does seem like this is a bit of a disappointing season considering UNLV Hoops tends to be on a year-to-year basis a pretty damn good team. They're usually in the top half for sure of the Mountain West, and they've just struggled to stay. They've just struggled to be there and be in contention for that. Start of the season was amazing. Again, easy schedule. They took advantage of that easy schedule, but since then it's been a struggle bus, man. I want to say they started out roughly 12-2, and since then, they're like 2-7 or 2-5. So yeah, not a very good mid-season point for the UNLV men's basketball if they want to get to the tournament, if they want to get an opportunity to win the Mountain West Conference. They really got to think about winning out here. UNLV women's, on the other hand, is absolutely destroying the Mountain West. They are first in the Mountain West. They are 20-2 overall, and they're absolutely kicking ass and taking names. I know that it's Oral Roberts, and you've never heard of that team before, but they beat them 100-84. Yes, you heard it first. A 100-point game was scored by UNLV this year in college. College basketball. We're not talking 4 quarters. We're talking about 2 halves. In college basketball, 100 points was scored. Yes, it's Oral Roberts. I'm pretty sure that's a toothpaste company. Just kidding, it's not. But it's a small college we've absolutely never heard of, and we don't know. They could be the school of the blind for all we know, but regardless, they still put up 84 points on the UNLV women's team. UNLV women's team is killing it. They're 20-2, and as of right now, I believe they're on a 12-game win streak. They're absolutely kicking ass and taking names. They play New Mexico Thursday, February 2nd. So they're at New Mexico Thursday, February 2nd, at Air Force Saturday, February 4th. We'll be at home against Fresno State on the 9th of February. You will have a road game on February 11th at Boise State, at home against San Jose State, at home against Utah State, at home against San Diego State, and they finish up the regular season at Nevada. There's a possibility this team completely wins out, and you see a 30-2 team or a 28-2 team, because this team is absolutely killing it. Yeah, absolutely. There's a possibility you see a 28-2 team. If they get to 28-2, they'll obviously be the number 1 seed in the Mountain West Conference when they have their tournament, if they have their tournament. And I see no way in hell that this team does not somehow make it to the dance. How they do not make it to the tournament and at least try to go on a run. They'll have a lot to contend with because you guys know how some of those bigger basketball schools are, like the Connecticuts of the world, the Tennessees of the world, South Carolina. But it would be an interesting matchup if we got to see these ladies, the NCAA women's ladies, get after it. As far as the standings are concerned across the women's college basketball landscape, I mean, you see the Florida Gulf Coast Eagles 20-3 over there at the Atlantic Sun Conference. Let's see who's leading in the America East Conference. Albany Great Danes 14-9. Oof. Yikes. The American Athletic Conference, the number 25 South Florida Bulls 21-4. And And when you look at it, I mean, let's be real. UNLV is 20-2, so the margin of error is pretty slim to none if you want to have one of those higher seeds. The women's Duke team, or the ACC, is absolutely one of the kings of college basketball, no matter what sport, no matter whether it's men's or women's. Right now, Duke Blue Devils are 18-3 in the top of the Atlantic Coast Conference. Notre Dame Fighting Irish in second, North Carolina Tar Heels in fourth, Virginia Tech Hokies in fifth, and then the NC State Wildcats, who are ranked 15th, happen to be, which is crazy, seventh in this conference, and somehow they have, I mean, good lord, six ranked teams. It's unbelievable. Big 12 conference is run by Texas. Big 12 is not. Big 12 basketball just isn't what it used to be. UConn, number 5, 20-2. Same record as our UNLV Lady Rebels. 20-2. UConn is that team, man. You know they're going to be a really good team year in and year out. Big 10 conference is led by the Indiana Hoosiers. The Lady Hoosiers are kicking ass. And when we look at the landscape, let's see, where are we looking at our UNLV Lady Rebels? They're unranked, unfortunately, but they are 20-2, 10-0 in conference play. You win your conference, you get a bid to the dance. It's that simple. Stanford Cardinals are number 2, and we are currently looking for the number 1 team, who is the South Carolina Gamecocks at 21-0. At number 3, the LSU Tigers, 21-0 as well. Currently, by like splitting hairs, maybe a coin toss, as of right now, the LSU Tigers and the South Carolina Gamecocks are dead even at 9-0 in conference, 21-0 overall, and that should be a battle, man. The Lady Volunteers are always kicking ass too. Man, the NCAA women's basketball is absolutely killer, and it would be awesome if we got to see the UNLV Lady Rebels, Fighting Lady Rebels, get in there and absolutely, I'd say go. Why? I mean, why not? Why not make it to the Sweet 16? These Lady Rebels can score. You telling me they can't compete? It's possible. Anything can happen in basketball. So the UNLV Lady Rebels are absolutely killing it. Looking at UNLV football recruiting, they've got six transfer commits. 6 transfer commits. Majority of them are 3-star players. Not a bad thing. Jalen St. John's, offensive tackle. I mean, from Arkansas to UNLV, he's going to be an immediate starter probably day one. Jalen Frazier, 5'10". I mean, 170-pound cornerback. He's an immediate transfer from NC State. He could come in and really push that depth chart. Possibly could start day one. Vincent Davis, running back. He's out of Pitt. Will be transferring to UNLV. Someone that might be able to replace, if not lighten the load of UNLV's returning running back Babin. And then when you look at Bam Amina, linebacker, he's immediate transfer from Colorado State to UNLV. It's kind of weird. It makes you wonder what the situation is in Colorado State, that one Mountain West Conference team is going to move to another Mountain West Conference team. You just never know with those types of things. 4 hard commits, 1 3-star in that aspect, and then signed letter intents. You have about 6 3-stars picked up there. Interior offensive line, D-line, linebacker. I'm not surprised by any of that, considering Barry Odom is a defensive coach. Barry Odom's a defensive coach. He's probably going to want to build the defense. That's been one of the weak spots for UNLV. We saw progress last year under Marcus Arroyo, but primarily on the offensive side of the football. Barry Odom, if he can find a way to balance that, it's going to be great. Remember, they have that early on in the offseason, they hired Bobby Petrino to come in and be the offensive coordinator for UNLV football. That didn't work out because Bobby Petrino was poached by the Texas A&M Aggies. And I think Jimbo Fisher is kind of fighting for his job, so he wanted to bring in one of the better offensive minds that we've seen in college football. Yes, checkered past, but we can't argue with what Bobby Petrino's done over the years. With that said, UNLV ended up hiring that youngster out of Texas. Give me 1 second. And I'm excited for that because Steve Sarkisian in Texas runs one of the most, I don't know how you want to say it, one of the most intriguing offenses in college football. They run almost like a 2 or 3 back system in a lot of cases. They spread guys out, and they like to run a lot of read plays, a lot of RPOs, and it's something that keeps the defense on the heels. I truly believe if Steve Sarkisian continues to recruit the way he's been recruiting in Texas, That'll be the top team in the Big 12. Yes, TCU was excellent this year, but I mean that's happened once in the entire playoff history. I wouldn't be surprised if Texas is a contender next year when it comes to the college football playoff if they take care of business in the Big 12. Brennan Marion, former Texas offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach, will be on his way. Is on his way to UNLV, starting to kind of put some things together under Barry Odom's staff. And again, I would be interested to know if he's going to bring over that style of offense that Steve Sarkisian, that run and gun RPO system, high percentage quick throws that Steve Sarkisian's done so well with, that made Quinton Ewers, honestly, when he was healthy, look very good. If Brennan Marion can come in with that type of offense, especially with the young guns they had, I know they're missing a couple receivers because they transferred out, Kyle Williams being one of them. If UNLV can find a way to utilize the speed and the players that they have now and integrate this type of a system with Brumfield throwing the ball still, because he's still got one more year of eligibility at least, it'd be interesting to see what happens. Because when Brumfield was healthy, when their running back was healthy, this UNLV team was putting up 50 points. So it should be interesting to see what Brendan Marion can do, and I wish nothing but the best to Barry Odom and Brendan Marion as they navigate these waters. So, folks, we're going to go to break. We're about the halfway mark. We're going to go to break. We're going to do a quick dive into the Golden Knights, and then we're going to go right into the Raiders after the break here on Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Damn! Green team! Set, hey!
What's going on, football fans? This is me, your boy Larry B, inviting you to join myself, Colin Reynolds, Mike Pat, and John Felipe for one of the most electrifying football shows you have ever heard. 3 and Out, right here at IE Sports Radio. Recap of the week before, a preview of what's to come, and of course, 3 hardcore head-to-head prime-time face-offs each week. You don't want to miss it.
What's happening, sports fans? Are you a fan of Southern California sports? Are you looking for a show hotter than a hot summer day in California? Then look no further than the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, where I talk about all things Southern California sports. That's right, all sports teams from Southern California. From the hard-hitting tackles of the NFL, to the killer crossovers and big three-pointers of the NBA and WNBA, to the grand slams of the MLB, to the bone-chilling goals of the NHL, and to the booming kicks of the MLS. The SoCal Supreme Sports Show has it all for you. Oh, and let us not forget about the college sports as well. So join me, Taryn Rodriguez, every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
College football, and do you want to hear a college football show dedicated to all that is college football, including junior college in the CCCAA and in the NJCAA, the NAIA, and the NCAA, including Division III, Division II, Division I AA in the FCS, and Division I Single A in the FBS? Well then, look no further. Join myself, Larry B, and my colleagues, Mr. H-Town Blake Henley, and Mr. Christian Espinoza, each week during the college football season for the latest in college football on 3 and Out College Edition right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Sports fans, do you like teams that are tough, cities that are tougher, and fan bases that are passionate about their teams? How about teams that are historic and stadiums that are iconic? Then you belong in Chicago, and you need to check out Chi-Town Weekly. Join me, Adam Kernan, every week as we keep up with all things Chicago sports. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, Cubs, White Sox. We'll cover them all, plus more. The Windy City is always buzzing, and we'll keep you up on all the big games and major stories. So tune in to Chi-Town Weekly every week right here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Everybody, this is Taryn Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunder Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
Ladies and sinners, welcome back from the break. This is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. We're back at it again every Tuesday evening. Had to take a quick 1 week hiatus, but now we're back, folks. Back at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on IE Sports Radio. If you guys want to catch up with any of the latest shows, catch our show live, go to iesportsradio.com. We have a brand new website, or maybe more of a revamped website, where you can get to all of our Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok links. Keep track of anything IE Sports Radio, especially the Sin City Sports Show, by going to iesportsradio.com, where you can find all the links you're looking for to keep track of anything IE Sports Radio. Yeah, that's what we do, your direct feed for all that is sports. Back from the break, you guys know how it is. We're going to talk about our Las Vegas Golden Knights. Quick recap, we're talking about UNLV women's basketball, who's absolutely killing it right now. 20-2, first in the Mountain West. They're unranked for whatever reason, because, you know, I think the rankings, honestly, in women's basketball, it's so top-heavy out of the SEC and ACC that it's really tough to fit those girls in. But they score a lot of points. They sneak into the turning. We're going to see. It should be interesting. Should absolutely be interesting. Want to give a shout out to Larry B, Taryn Rodriguez. I apologize I didn't see you guys in the chat right away. You guys are awesome. You're always involved. Great teammates. Taryn comes out and says, anything can happen in basketball unless you're the Clippers, then you're most likely not going to win the Larry O'Brien Trophy. Yep, that's because it's the Clippers, not the Lakers. Lakers, title town. Clippers are really good at losing. Golden Knights are badass. Yes, Golden Knights are badass every single year. Even when they have a down year and they're just plush full of injuries, they somehow end up fourth place. That's how good the Golden Knights have been since their inception. I will say this. They've had a recent fall, Larry. I mean, they've lost 4 straight. They were leading basically the Western Conference for the first what felt like to be, I don't know how you want to say it. 2/3 of that first half, first half of the season, it was such an easy run for those guys, and their point differential was absolutely massive, and now they're at the point now where they're having a hard time keeping guys from being banged up, for that matter. They're starting to get banged up. There's folks out there that believe there will be a trade made to bolster this team at the trade deadline. And that just tells you, hey, you're kind of looking up at now what is a very good and young Los Angeles Kings team in second place, and the Seattle Kraken. Yeah, you heard it here first. The Seattle Kraken, the expansion team, is now in first place in the Pacific Division, and that is absolutely scary. Unbelievable, considering the Golden Knights have been absolutely dominating the Western Conference. The Stars, the Jets, both have more points than the Golden Knights now. That wasn't even close about a month ago. It's just absolutely nuts. Taryn says, still listening, Kel. But something I want to know. How did Seattle Kraken get on the level of the Golden Knights? Dude, we talked about this 2 weeks ago on the show, and I asked Adam Karnick this. I think that the NHL has absolutely cracked the code when it comes to the expansion draft and the way that they treat their teams. It is very unique in the NHL, whereas essentially, as a team, as an NHL team, if you are not the expansion team, you have the ability to lock 5 of your players on your roster. It allows the expansion team to basically pick the 6th or 7th best player on everybody's roster. If they can't get a hold of them, then they can negotiate draft pick trades, things like that. It is exactly what the Vegas Golden Knights did. They didn't get a lot of heat. They actually were able to get a lot of these 6 best players like the William Karlssons of the world, who have been a very good player for the Golden Knights. That's an example of somebody who was taken as the 6th best player, and he goes to a team, and then they basically go to the Stanley Cup final in their first year. The expansion draft in the NHL is unique, and it's unlike any other. If more teams, if more leagues followed that style or principle when they have an expansion team, dude, I'm telling you guys, we'd see much better football out of a new team than what we see now. Like, it feels like for example, the Texans, I think, were the last expansion team in the NFL. They went out and got David Carr. It was what it was. It was ugly. It wasn't necessarily David Carr's fault. What's his name? Charlie Casserly, who was the GM at the time, believed he put a good team on the field. He didn't. They were cheeks. Yes, David Carr had a really bad first season. I think he was hit and sacked more than any quarterback in league history at that time. The very next year, they get Andre Johnson. Some years were starting to piece together that were very good, but again, the offensive line was always really bad, and it kind of just sunk David Carr's career. He wasn't necessarily a problem, but the expansion team had a hard time getting wins until Bill O'Brien showed up, and we all know what happened from there. Like, they had some successful seasons. There wasn't ever really a big championship run, but Bill O'Brien did a great job until he became GM. That type of expansion model where you get the number 1 pick and you get all the salary cap and stuff like that, I think that it would be better for the NFL, because it sounds like the NFL's talking about expansion, right? They're talking about a London team. They're talking about a Paris team, something of that matter, a German team. If that were to happen, the way the NHL does it, where you can essentially lock so many players on your roster, and then that team has the ability to go pick or pluck at least one player from every team in the league to help fill up their roster that isn't a part of that, let's say in the NFL, top 10, right? If they're not part of that top 10, you select the 11th best player, you're still going to have a pretty damn good roster. And on top of that, you get the number 1 draft pick and a bunch of draft assets. Yeah. I just think the NHL does a great job with their expansion draft. With this blueprint, there's only 30 teams. You're looking at you're looking at a way for the NHL to help these young teams that really need fans in the stands to help them make money after, making that investment, because it is a big investment. I'm sure that these teams are essentially franchising billions of dollars, millions of dollars to the league, and then just billions of dollars to build an arena and then support the team. They need to make money back fast. This is great for the NHL, and it probably helps their revenue share when teams like this are able to get the number one draft pick, and then on top of that, pluck the sixth or seventh best player from each roster in the NHL. And if that doesn't work out, again, you can make trades with those teams so that they can keep their sixth or seventh best player and just pile up draft picks. That's part of the reason why I think that happened. That's exactly what happened with the Golden Knights in their first few seasons. They had so much draft ammo that they were able to trade that draft ammo and just load up their roster real quick to try and go on some Stanley Cup runs. And again, 2 out of the 3 first years, the Golden Knights were in the Stanley Cup final. Very impressive for an expansion team. It would be awesome if the Kraken were the same way. First of all, the Kraken is a dope ass name. Like we can't shy away from it. It is what it is. Yeah, the Golden Knights are dope, but listen, the Kraken, really? Their color scheme is cool. They're in Seattle, which is, a beautiful place. All things considering, I know it rains all the time, and it's basically the depression capital of the United States, but the Kraken, that's so dope. What a great name. And I'm really happy for him, man. I'm happy for those new Kraken fans, those Seattle fans that were hungry for another pro sports team. This gives them something to cheer about. So now they're number one in the Pacific. Don't count out the Golden Knights. We are at the All-Star break. They are a team that if they heal up, they aren't banged up, there's no reason why they can't go on that same style of run out the gates in the second half of the season that they had at the very first part of the season, where they basically won 12 in a row. I think they won 12 out of their 14 games. The other 2 were ties. Like the start of the Golden Knights season was absolutely disgusting. You can't count them out. They could do the exact same thing if they heal up and get back to what they were doing that made them so dominating to start the year. Moving on to the Raiders. The Raiders. You guys know how it is, man. There's always drama with this team. It seems like and it makes me wonder if Larry needs me to resign, but it seems as though as soon as I took over the show, or we recreated the show, we have had years with nothing but drama for the Las Vegas Raiders, man. We're back. You guys know the fiasco last year, the Gruden situation, the emails, the Henry Ruggs situation. It was just horrible, and it was tough to cover that, and it was really tumultuous. It was a very tumultuous season, and the fact that the Raiders made the playoffs is incredible. We know what happened this year. Josh McDaniels showed up, and he ruined the team. That's an oversimplification. I understand that, but it is what it is, man. I think they're trying to bring in their own guys. There are rumors of trades. It is what it is. This is obviously not the roster they're looking for. Tom Brady's rumored to be a Raider next year. What a spit in the face that would be is if, the Raiders haven't won a Super Bowl since 1983, and the first quarterback to help the Raiders do that is the quarterback that kept them away from a Super Bowl back in 2001 when he won his first with that stupid ass rule. Imagine he be the one. It's not even poetic justice. It's just kind of a spit in the face. But it is what it is. The Raiders are the Raiders. The Raiders are gonna Raider, and they're just not doing a very good job of running their franchise. They haven't done it for 20 years. So Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels are trying to do some different things. Mark Davis is backing them 100%. We can't always agree with what their intentions are, but it is what it is. Before we go into deeper detail on that, Taryn Rodriguez said, the Las Vegas Ramblers will be starting its NVA title defense. Awesome. National Volleyball Association title defense. About 2 more months until the season begins, but tomorrow begins all the spiciness in terms of the NVA. Think of it as training camp. Perfect. Sweet. Someone's got to win in Vegas. If it's got to be the Ramblers and it's got to be the lady Aces, so be it. If they're going to be the ones that make Las Vegas a title town, so be it. All in support of that. Real quick update with the Derek Carr situation. As of yesterday, or after the conference championship game, per his agreement and the CBA, so the NFL CBA, Derek Carr, if he was granted by the Raiders permission to do so, him and his agent were going to be able to explore trades for Derek Carr, and that was not granted by the Las Vegas Raiders. Very puzzling. You would think the Las Vegas Raiders, it's not when you think about it honestly. With the way Dave Ziegler and the Patriots did business, they like to keep things in house. In all honesty, guys, like with the way that David Carr is handling this, the Carr brothers are handling this, the Carr family is handling this, some of the tit for tat back and forth stuff that are low key being released to the media by the Raiders organization and stuff. I honestly believe that Josh McDaniels right now is just trying to save face. I believe he's just trying to do whatever he can to not make himself look like the embarrassment he was this year when, he led a team that lost 6 games when they had a, double-digit lead at one point. So he's doing whatever he can not to make this look like it's all him. But at the same token, not trying to diminish Derek Carr's value. They've already done it. And what's worse about this whole situation is you had a quarterback that honestly, yes, he had a lot of turnovers, but everybody's had a lot of turnovers in Josh McDaniels' system their first year. It's year 2 and year 3 where they really start to figure it out and ball out. It's not like he had super bad games all the time. The guy had 24 touchdowns and 15 interceptions, and I mean he did that without Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, and with one of the top 5 worst offensive lines in the league. I'm not pro Derek Carr necessarily. I just think he's misunderstood. I don't think he was treated very well by Raider fans and the Raiders in general. I don't think he was necessarily given a fair shot all the time. Maybe 3 of his 6 years he had a decent team. Otherwise, the remaining 6 of the 9 years, right, were absolute garbage teams, and there was really just no chance that the Raiders were going to compete. So yes, this year was a difficult year, but let's think about it, man. The play calling, subpar. And anybody and everybody who covers the Raiders believes that. The folks that don't are the local media that don't want to piss the Raiders off and somehow not get invited to media days anymore because Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels are doing the Patriot thing and kind of controlling the narrative. There's a lot of writers out there that are just way too damn scared to step on some toes right now. And it's because they want to keep these relationships fresh and salvage them in a way that they can continue to do their job even after Josh McDaniels is eventually fired, which is possible if they don't win a Super Bowl next year with Tom Brady. That's possible too. It's such a weird situation the Raiders are in. They have the ability to win the Super Bowl next year if Tom Brady comes in, they fix the defense, and they probably replace the 2 guards on the offensive line, maybe move Dylan Parham at center. Like, you have the ability because I think they have tackles that are serviceable and can get it done, especially with Colton Miller. Thayer Mumford has a ton of upside, but Jermaine Illuminor does not get enough credit. I mean, I think he allowed 1 sack in 15 games at one point after having a really bad start to the season. So he doesn't get enough credit for how well he played, and the interior of the offensive line is my biggest concern. You have weapons all over the place if you don't trade away Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, which there are rumors of that. It's just, dude, there's just so much crap going on with the Raiders right now. It's tough to keep a finger on it and keep a pulse on it. All I can give you guys is speculation. Again, it's like what we say on IE Sports Radio. The opinions are ours of our own. I don't have a source. Nobody's willing to talk to me, but it is what it is. The Raiders are hot garbage. They run their franchise like hot garbage, and in the middle of it, you have a story brewing with their former franchise quarterback who just got voted into the Pro Bowl. Yes, he's an alternate, but it is what it is. He got voted into the Pro Bowl. You guys want to know how bad the Pro Bowl voting is, and it works with and against Derek Carr, right? I'm sorry, but Tyler Humphrey, or whatever his name is, Huntley, the Ravens quarterback with more interceptions than touchdowns and less than 100 attempts this year, is going to play in the Pro Bowl. What? How bad is the Pro Bowl voting now? Are you going to tell me that Tyler Huntley deserves to be in the Pro Bowl more than Joe Burrow? Right? Justin Herbert? Come on, man. The Pro Bowl vote's an absolute joke. They've turned that game into an absolute joke. It means nothing because it's the week before the Super Bowl when it used to be, and the skills camp used to be after the Super Bowl to help keep the NFL relevant for one more week, and it was a lot of fun. Now it's just garbage. It doesn't make sense. So then look at this in this spectrum. Look at the optics that the Raiders are in right now, right? You benched a franchise quarterback who's done nothing but be professional for your franchise for 9 seasons in December. You've made it very clear to the entire NFL that you had no plans on keeping Derek Carr. You were going to move on from him. But now you're not going to grant him the ability to go pursue a trade to try and help you. Any kind of draft compensation at this point would be worth it for the Raiders. So I'll say it like this, and we'll just kind of close out the Derek Carr conundrum. He just got voted to the Pro Bowl. He's going to have Pro Bowl under his belt. That might help his value. There are teams out there that do value him. Dave Ziegler has been on record to say that multiple teams have reached out about Derek Carr. Obviously, the deal wasn't good enough. It is what it is. Derek Carr's got to approve the deal because he has a no-trade clause. So one of two things are going to happen moving forward. And I'll say it like this. Very simple. They cut him before February 15th because they realize they've diminished the value, and I think they're just prepared to move on. They want a fresh start. That is the optimistic side of things. Believe it or not. I don't think they're getting a first-round pick. I don't think they're getting a second-round pick, to be honest with you guys. They have diminished the value of Derek by benching him in December and basically allowing him to go home, and all of these weird stories that have going in and out all the time. They've diminished the value of Derek so much that teams know you are not going to bring him back. So why would they give you big draft capital? So again, one of two things are going to happen. They cut Derek Carr. Everybody goes their own ways. It is what it is. The Raiders bring in Tom Brady or try to trade for Aaron Rodgers, which I do believe is heavily possible on both accounts, to be honest with you. Would I rather have Aaron Rodgers? Hell yeah. We'll talk about that with team needs. But it is what it is. Those guys are likely. I don't think there's a joke. I think that's serious. Or the Raiders get petty. The Raiders do not cut him by the 15th. They guarantee his $40 million, and they hold on to him until that quarterback market is all but dried up, and Derek Carr has no choice but to accept a trade, either sit on the roster on the bench and basically just show up and make things really awkward for everything that's going on there, which is what I would do because I'm petty. That's not Derek Carr, right? They're banking, and I think Mike Florio said it himself. He normally doesn't make any sense at all, but, Pro Football Focus, he's making sense this time, right? In my opinion, this is on brand with the shystiness and the pettiness and the absolute shitballness that Josh McDaniels is, because let's be honest, he's a cheeseball that showed up and ruined a playoff caliber team. They hold on to him, guarantee his $40 million, allow the quarterback market to dry up with all the moving dominoes that could happen this offseason, and then Derek Carr is left with one or two situations that aren't favorable, but he's got to accept the trade because either that or he just sits on the bench, and I don't think the guy wants to sit on the bench. I don't think the guy wants to retire. Those are the only two things that I think would happen and would not work in favor for either side, by the way. Because again, even if a trade is accepted, guess what? They maybe get a third-round pick. And I think Mike Pat was on top of it the whole way. At the time, Derek Carr's value was multiple first-round picks when we first started talking about the Derek Carr trade, which would have been great for Raiders. But there was a no-trade clause, so Derek Carr was likely going to be traded to whatever team he wants to be traded to. Alas, that brings us to this point. The Raiders, in my opinion, did not allow him to start seeking a trade because there's a very high possibility that the Raiders were worried that his agent and Derek Carr were going to tell the team, hey, either do it with a weak-ass draft pick in the 5th to the 7th round pick, or let's do a handshake, kind of an under-the-table deal. We make them cut me, and you just pay me more than what the guarantees are going to be. And it's what I've been speculating on our Twitter for basically a month or so. When folks thought I was crazy, I said, I don't think Derek Carr is valued as much as people realize. The quarterback market is nuts. He's going to be one of the better free agents by far this offseason. If he's cut, he's going to get more than $40 million guaranteed by the next team. He'll get at least a 3-year deal around $90 million, and I bet you 60 to 70 of that is guaranteed. So at least 2.5 years, which is, in my opinion, more money than the $40 million guaranteed if he stays on the Raiders roster or they don't cut him in time. I think we all know that $60 million is more than $40 million, and he'll probably end up in a better situation. I think what's best for both sides is just cut. Do a fresh start. That's the optimist in me, but I feel like Dave Ziegler and Josh McDaniels are going to hold on to that dude. And Larry, you're right, man. Watch Carr win a bowl. Dude, listen, and this is where we talk about his destinations because we're kind of revamping that list. We talked about it initially. I think initially we did say the Jets. We did say the Jets. We said possibly Miami, depending on the Tua situation. Like all of that was on the table. Houston actually looks like a really great place now. I don't think they'll do that because they're in position to draft C.J. Stroud. But Houston with D'Amico Ryans and that defense and all those draft picks would be an amazing place for Derek Carr. I get that David struggled there, but what a storybook that would be for Derek to show up in Houston and help them win a bowl, right? The team I'm honestly leaning towards right now, Larry, is the Carolina Panthers. I think Frank Reich and Derek Carr have had a relationship for years. They're very religious guys. They're big on their faith, but they're both very good at what they do. I think Derek Carr is very good at distributing the football. Frank Reich is one of the better offensive coordinators in the league. He just never really had a quarterback in Indy. They've revamped that offensive line. They've revamped that entire defense in Carolina. If in some way, shape, or form, Frank Reich goes out and gets a really good defensive coordinator, because I don't think he's bringing back Steve Wilks. I don't think Steve Wilks wants to stay there. If some way, shape, or form he brings in a top defensive coordinator to lead that young first-round draft pick full of defensive players, that's in the NFC South, that's a Super Bowl caliber team. They're going to win that division and probably have a 1 or 2 seed and be a Super Bowl caliber team with Derek Carr there, because they are absolutely loaded and they have a bunch of draft picks coming up this year. It would be very interesting to see how it would be in Carolina. The other one, and I stick by this, and I said this before a couple weeks ago, I think the 49ers are a perfect spot for Derek Carr. Brock Purdy had the injury. I think he did pretty well, but it goes to show that when he played an elite defense, it is what it is, man. Like, you can't hide it for too long. Okay? The Niners got absolutely dominated. Brock Purdy was hit around, but let's be real. Do we think Brock Purdy's better than Derek Carr? No. Imagine if he gets cut and the Niners say, you know what, we're going to let Jimmy G go. We're going to free up a ton of cap space, and we're basically going to replace that cap space with Derek Carr and just build the team around him continuously, because that's where they're one of the better drafting teams in the league right now. The Niners and the Carolina Panthers right now, to me, are the top teams to get Derek Carr. I think the New York Jets would be an excellent stop, but something in my mind says Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Jet next year. It sounds so Brett Favre-ish, and I don't care, but it is what it is, man. Like, imagine Aaron Rodgers on that loaded-ass Jets team. Cold weather obviously doesn't bother him. He's been in Lambeau for years. Center of the AFC, oh my gosh. And yes, Larry, absolutely. If Derek Carr is the quarterback of the Niners right now, they're in the Super Bowl. Because they were a loaded team. They weren't quite as good as the Eagles, let's be real. And who called that, by the way, at the beginning of the year? I was the first person on IE Sports Radio said the Eagles were legit. I referenced their lines, and folks thought I was crazy. And I'm like, dude, I'm telling you. The Eagles are about to be legit. And now where are they? It's awesome. I love being right. But yes, I agree with you, Larry. Niners can win with Carr. They would win with Carr. Kyle Shanahan's a genius. He's one of the best play callers in all of the league. He's got one of the better defenses. They're always top 3 every year. I truly believe that Derek Carr will be on one of 3 teams. And I mean this, right? The most likely right now is Carolina. Second most likely right now, with the way things have, gone with Brock Purdy and all that, if Derek Carr is willing to take a friendly, this is if he's cut, if he's willing to take a friendly contract, he's a Niner, right? Because he's a Bay Area kid and he'd love to win for the Niners. The Carrs were Niners fans growing up. And then Miami. Something tells me Tua is not going to be back, dude. I just have something in my mind. Tua's not going to be back. You put Carr on that team with that offense. Vic Fangio is going to take over that defense with all that talent. It would be absolutely nuts if Carr went to Miami. But the top 2, I think, are what happens. I think he ends up in the NFC. The Washington Commanders are 4th. They'd be excellent with Derek Carr. But if I were Derek Carr, I'd be looking at Carolina, because that division sucks. They're bad. Tom Brady's leaving. They're going to be bad for years to come. 100% believe that'd be excellent. But yes, Carr with Hill in Miami would be nuts, because he's got a great arm. He's not always going to underthrow him like what we saw with Tua. So that's what I think with the Carr situation. Ultimately, I think it's best if he gets cut. It's best for both sides. What I think the Raiders do is they get shiesty and they hold on to him and force him to trade. So that way they can get some sort of compensation out of him. The downfall for that with the Raiders is they won't be able to save that full $33 million they're trying to save. So again, I think what's best is he gets cut, and I think what's best for Derek Carr right now is he goes to Carolina, especially if Frank Reich can get an excellent defensive coordinator to coach that young, very talented defense. Frank Reich and Derek Carr would be a really scary thought in the NFC, especially the NFC South. Raiders team needs, we kind of covered it. The offensive line needs to be addressed. But most importantly, they need a pass rusher, man. They need a defensive lineman real bad. We all know the quarterback situation is probably the most dire right now, but if we're being real, I think it's Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. I really do. If Aaron Rodgers doesn't end up a Jet, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a Raider. The issue is the draft compensation. Are the Raiders willing to give up 1 to 2 first-round picks for 3 years of Aaron Rodgers in a championship window? I'd do that because if you win a championship one time in those 3 years, it's worth those two first round picks. That's what I think. Raiders needs equals a team. That's fair. New owner, new head coach who is an absolute ass. Yeah, 100% agree with you. I would say the quarterback obviously is one. It's an easy one, but I think that gets supplemented or taken care of either by Rodgers or Brady. I would rather have Rodgers, but yes, Brady would be, I think he'd take a team-friendly deal to come to Vegas and load everything up. The interior offensive line needs to be addressed tremendously. Like, it needs to be so badly. It's not even funny. The defense, every level of the defense needs a starting caliber guy in the draft. Whether that's at 7, they get a pass rusher or a corner. In my opinion, I think if you get Brady, you trade back, hopefully into the teens, and load up on an extra first-round pick and do whatever you can to load up that defense. Load up the interior of that offensive line and load up the defense because you have weapons. The other thing I'm wondering about is, are they going to trade Waller or Renfro? Because it sounds like there's a possibility on that. He said, why are the Raiders fans so bent on keeping Josh Jacobs? So Josh Jacobs had a career year. He's 25. He's on the right side of 30, right? He's in his prime. I don't know, man. If they franchise him, which is like $10 million, they'll still have $40 million in cap space if they cut Carr before February 15th. That's a good amount of money to go with. And if you can talk Brady into coming in for like a base salary of 15 with incentives to get him to 25 to 30 if they win a Super Bowl, I think that's worth it, right? Just franchise him, let him run out that franchise tag, and then figure things out from there. But overall, it wouldn't surprise me if Josh Jacobs, and we've said this for weeks, for months, it wouldn't surprise me if Josh Jacobs isn't back. The Patriot way is not to pay running backs. They just don't do it. Running backs don't get second contracts. They just draft more running backs that can do the same job. But Josh Jacobs has shown to be very special. I mean, in his 4 years as a Raider, he's essentially had like 7,000 all-purpose yards, which is absolutely disgusting. He's averaging a little over 4.3 yards a carry, which is great. He's just a really good back, man, and he leads the league in yards after contact. And his initial point of contact is usually half a yard of the line of scrimmage, which means our offensive line, again, is dog crap. Had to refrain from that. Just being real with the situation. So team needs O-line. Interior mainly. Focus on the interior. If you can bring in 2 studs from the draft and start them, I don't care. Bring in competition, do what you got to do, because they should have done that last year. They should have spent more draft picks on the offensive line and obviously not wasted a 3rd-round draft pick on a running back they used like 10 times last year. I like Zeus. I really hope he pans out for the Raiders and he's just a killer for the rest of his career. But let's be real. If you were only going to give the man 10 carries this whole season like you did, I mean, it was probably more than 10 carries, but you guys get what I'm saying. You might as well have used that on the best available guard or something like that in the 3rd round. Just saying. It doesn't make sense. Raiders need an O-line. They need a pass rusher. They need an interior defensive guy that can make a difference. They need linebackers. They need DBs. Their entire defense is hot garbage, and they have to take care of that. Those are Raiders team needs. Mock draft. We're going to touch base on that real quick before we get out of here. Recently, I did a mock draft, It's probably one of the better ones I've done, and actually I know it was pretty good because Mike Pat chimed in and said, dude, excellent mock draft. Basically, in my mock draft, I didn't go quarterback because I truly believe it's probably going to be Brady. So I wasn't worried about that. I said Raiders need all the assets they can to build the team around Brady because he's in his advanced age. Yes, he threw for over 4,000 yards, but you have to protect the dude. Period. There's no way around it. So in my mock, if you guys get a chance, go to SinCity_IESR, our Twitter page. You guys can see it up. I traded back to pick 16 with the Commanders, who traded up to 7. We were able to get a second-round pick this year, an additional second-round pick this year, next year, fourth-round pick this year, and the grade got an A-. I probably could have asked for an additional late-round pick, if not, like, I don't know, maybe try to squeeze that 2024 pick into a first-round pick, which would have gotten us an A+. But it is what it is. We got value out of that. And this is how, right? So the Washington Commanders are probably trading up to get Will Levis or something because they really need to address their quarterback position. I'm sorry, Sam Howell probably isn't the guy. What I did for the Raiders is I got cornerback Devin Witherspoon out of Illinois. He's believed to be one of the best, if not the best, corner in this year's draft. He's pro-ready. He's a stud. And he was a guy that was recruited by Lovie Smith himself when he was at Illinois. So we know he's a good DB because Lovie Smith has always done a great job of coaching DBs. Look what he did with Nate Hobbs. Nate Hobbs is a Lovie Smith product. Nate Hobbs is a special talent. When he's on, man, and he's locked down, right? Devin Witherspoon could be the exact same kind of player, and he'd be an excellent corner. Number 38, I had Osiris Torrance out of Florida. In my opinion, probably the best guard in this draft, dude. He's just a beast. He's a monster. He's like 6'5", 6'6", and 340 pounds, and he just road grades dudes. That's what the Raiders need. They need someone like him to step in, especially with this type of offense. We know Josh McDaniels isn't going to call a good one anyway, but with Brady here, he's going to need somebody in the middle to make sure nobody's coming up in the A-gaps, because that's where Brady's at his weakest, is when there's pressure in the A-gaps. Osiris will take up space nonetheless. Dylan Parham would be great in the middle because he's a young, quick guy who can pull. You could put him at the other guard and keep Andre James if you want to lose, but in my opinion, Dylan Parham is still the guy. I would put Dylan Parham in that position. I followed it up with the other round 2 pick with Jack Campbell. He's basically he's going to be, I think he's the linebacker of the year. I think he won linebacker of the year. So I'd give it to him. Jalen Hyatt, he had an injury, but he's still got a ton of speed for Tennessee. I picked him up because we're going to need backups for Devontae Adams. We're going to need a replacement for Mac Hollins. We don't know if he's coming back. Tyreek Stevenson, an A+ in the 4th round. He's an excellent corner. He's going to be an excellent corner. He's got speed. Kendre Miller is one of the ones that I thought was interesting. Again, we're going the Patriot way, right? They draft a lot of running backs. I liked Kendre Miller because he's an absolute monster. Look at what he did for TCU the last few years, and you get him in the 4th, that's excellent. We then went on to get a center out of Michigan who did a great job. Trey Dean, a safety because we need it. Tackle Brendan Daniels. I love Utah tackles. They always come to play. Linebacker out of Utah, and Cameron Latu is as a backup tight end. Basically a 6'6", 240-pound project that you can put behind Darren Waller and Foster Moreau and really bring up out of Alabama. Really good draft. I got an overall grade of A, and that's pretty generous for PFF because I did put up all the standards as far as like grading. So big deal. And that's kind of what I wanted to go with, man. That's what the Raiders need to go with, in my opinion, if they want to get better. They need to draft value, right? Go for value. Drop back and get as many picks as possible. When you have less cap space, you need to get a bunch of rookie contracts, and you need to build them up. Go after talented guys like this, and we won't have any issues. They'll take care of the deficiencies of our offense and defense. You'll get a backup. You'll get backups in places. We'll get depth for once. Won't have to worry about when guys get injured, the team's completely derailed. But again, we still have to hope Josh McDaniels calls good plays. Tom Brady's here, it shouldn't be a problem, but you never know. You guys know what it is, man. This every Tuesday evening, the Sin City Sports Show, presented by IE Sports Radio, will air at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time here on IE Sports Radio. And you guys can get at us on iesportsradio.com or listen to the episode. Tap on any of our links so that way you guys can always access our shows if you miss it. Please reach out on our Twitter forums at SinCity_IESR. Get on me on my Twitter at Kale_Henderson, is where we rock IE Vegas. Again, this is the Sin City Sports Show presented by IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Thank you again for tuning in, and as always, folks, love, peace, and hair grease.